Have you ever felt a presence when you were all alone? Something you couldn't quite explain, watching from just beyond the edges of your senses? Tonight, I'm going to tell you a story about a man named Greg, a city bus driver whose ordinary life took a turn into the extraordinary, all because of a mysterious passenger who refused to leave. This is a story about the things we can't always see, about searching for answers in the shadows, and what happens when the past refuses to stay buried. Stay with me, and let's take this ride together. Greg had been a bus driver for years. His late-night route was his sanctuary, quiet, predictable, and mostly empty. He knew every turn, every stop, every groan and creak of his old bus. It was a peaceful routine, or at least it had been. It all started on a cold autumn evening. That's when Greg first saw him, the man in the back of the bus. He always took the same seat, at the same time. No matter how many other seats were free, he was always there, staring out the window, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. "Evening, mister," Greg would call out. He'd never get a response, just a slight nod, almost imperceptible. At first, Greg brushed it off. Just a quiet guy, tired after a long day, he thought. But then, the strange things began. On certain nights, the atmosphere on the bus would shift. The air would grow heavy, thick with a strange, unspoken tension. The shadows in the corners seemed to stretch and darken, and the familiar road ahead felt suddenly alien. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, the mysterious passenger would be gone, always at the same stop, always vanishing without a sound. One night, Greg decided he had to know. "You getting off soon?" he asked, his voice steady as he slowed for the next stop. The man's reply was a soft, chilling whisper. "Not yet." Greg's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. The seat was empty. The man was gone. Greg's heart hammered against his ribs. He was certain the passenger hadn't gotten off. The doors hadn't even opened. A cold dread washed over him. It wasn't the first time something like this had happened, but tonight felt different. It felt real. The next morning, driven by a mix of fear and an insatiable curiosity, Greg went to the local library. He spent hours digging through archives of old newspapers, and that's when he found it. The headline jumped out at him. The story of an unsolved murder. 10 years ago, on his very route, a man named Jonathan Wells had been killed, on the same stretch of road, in the back of a bus, and the case was never solved. The article described the victim as a quiet man who had boarded the bus late one night, only to be found dead in the back seat, his belongings untouched. As Greg read the words, a cold realization crept over him. The man on his bus? Could it be? Was it even possible? The thought haunted him. Every night, as his bus rolled down that same stretch of road, his eyes darted to the back seat, half hoping, half fearing he wouldn't see him. But he was always there, and the tension on the bus grew stronger with each passing night. "Who are you?" Greg finally whispered one night, his voice barely audible over the engine's hum. The man didn't answer. But as Greg glanced in the mirror again, he saw something new. A small crumpled piece of paper, half hidden under the passenger's seat. He pulled over, his hands trembling as he reached down and picked it up. It was a letter, yellowed with age. The ink faded. It was signed by Jonathan Wells. The letter was an apology, written to someone he had wronged. "I'm sorry for what I did," it read. "I never meant for this to happen." Greg's hands shook. There was no return address, no clue as to who the apology was for, but the question burned in his mind. Was this phantom the ghost of Jonathan Wells himself, seeking redemption? That night, Greg broke from his route. He drove towards the old, forgotten part of town, the very place where the murder had occurred. And there, standing in the dim glow of a broken streetlight, Greg saw him again, the phantom passenger. But this time, he didn't vanish. "Do you remember me?" Greg asked softly, his voice a strange mix of fear and compassion. The man's head turned slowly, and for the first time his eyes met Greg's in the rearview mirror. They were hollow, empty eyes, but there was something else in them. Regret. Pain. "I've been waiting," the phantom whispered. "For forgiveness." And in that moment, Greg understood. This wasn't just a passenger. He was a lost soul trapped by his own past, searching for a way out. This story is more than just a tale of ghosts and mystery. It's about the heavy weight of unresolved guilt, the burden of our past mistakes, and that deep human yearning for forgiveness. We all carry things with us, don't we? Things that haunt us, whether we acknowledge them or not. Sometimes, if we let them, those things can define our entire lives. But it's never too late to seek redemption. The answer isn't always in what we can change, but in what we can forgive, both in others and in ourselves. The past doesn't have to control our future, but only if we're willing to let it go. We have to learn that redemption comes from within, from making peace with what's been done and accepting the lessons we've learned. If this story resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message today. A simple story can sometimes be the key that helps someone find the peace they've been searching for. And remember to take a moment today to forgive, whether it's someone else or yourself. Your past doesn't define you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this one. See you next time.